Hello from Sal's famous pizzeria on Amity Island in Burbank, California. This is the Film versus Film podcast, where we pit two movies against each other to determine which is better according to a specific prompt. If anyone can guess the prompt off of that intro, you win $1 million. But I am your host, Quinn Boys. I have seen over about 12.5 movies in my life, and all during the summertime. And I am joined, as always, by my co-host, and I'm going to guess, Leonard, you were born in the dead of winter, just based on your emo temperament sometimes. Leonard Smith Jr.
Yes, I was born in the winter, and
I knew it.
It's way too fucking hot right now. I just got out of the shower. I have lost copious amounts of liquid. I am dehydrated, and it's tough. And you know what that means? That means it's summertime, and we have a very special guest with us today to talk about some movies, and his name is Jeremy Olson. What's up, Jeremy?
Yo, what's up?
Jeremy, thank you for being on the
am
podcast.
Here. Can you see me? Can I see you? That's the truth, Ruth. I don't know the lines exactly.
We can see you. As long as everyone can hear you, it's an audio medium, an audible media. This is going great. We are talking about summer movies this week. If you gleaned that from the stuff we were talking about up top, congratulations. Because this is the Memorial Day weekend episode. This is the official kickoff to summer. And so what better time to talk about summer movies? I think we all have maybe, judging by my pick and Leonard's, different ideas of what a summer movie is and what summer movies mean. But nevertheless, I mean, summer is, I think, like when you think about movie going, getting out of the heat, getting into a nice air-conditioned theater, or even just watching something at home. Summer is, I feel like, the prime movie-going season. I could be wrong about that. Award season tends to be in the winter. But, Leonard, how many awards movies have we talked about on this podcast? Has it been one?
I think maybe two.
Yeah, by accident.
Yeah, by accident.
But so we are big summertime movie guys, and we'll get into the picks in a minute, but I kind of wanted to talk more about the prompt. Jeremy, we kind of like talked this one through. We were thinking of like strategically for Memorial Day weekend, but when we landed on summer movies, I'm curious, what do summer movies mean to you? And then we'll talk about the picks specifically.
It's completely kind of what you just said. I feel like movie-going time is the summertime. That feels like when all the movies that you're really excited about, all the hype movies are coming out. And then even like growing up, like we would go like to the drive-in movies. We had like a drive-in theater up where I grew up, and they would show movies. You can't show them during the winter.
Yeah.
It might rain. But yeah, I feel like there were a lot of like summer-centric activities, like especially for a dude who'd be growing up in church time activities. They love to show movies. That's like an easy thing that they can organize. That's pretty non-threatening, depending on the
so
movie.
you've seen my movie dozens of times.
Yeah, especially in evangelical white church.
This is a statement. This is right before Pee-wee gets a circumcision. What is that? That's probably not real. What is like? Because I feel like you're saying, yeah. I did not grow up going to church, but I did go to the Y and like the YMCA summer camp. I mean, it's the Young Men's Christian Association. They distance themselves from the C in YMCA, but they show a lot of movies and they take us to movies. But the thing that feels risky about that, like if you're in a kid's summer camp or at a church function, is that movies can veer into, I guess you might say, inappropriate territory real quick. So I would think it's a dicey. If you're a pastor, you're not going to be picking movies at random. You have to know what you're picking.
Yeah, no, they got to be vetted. They got to be well vetted. I remember for like one like youth group like movie watching event, like our pastor picked Signs.
I thought you were going to say Saw.
Shyamalan.
I thought you were going to say Saw, and I'm like, he knew exactly what he was doing.
I almost did. I didn't. I messed that up. But we watched Signs, and Signs is a totally fine movie.
We've discussed it on this podcast, actually. Leonard, I picked Signs.
Starring uber Christian Mel Gibson.
Yes.
So I mean,
right.
You can't go wrong, right?
That's right.
That's what you would think.
Yeah. But by the end of it, there were like many people visibly shook. Like, conservative, sheltered ass kids were shook by the end of this movie.
Wait, there could be more out there? There might be.
Yeah, if you're watching a movie and for a bunch of people who believe unfailingly in the Lord, and this movie is positing that there are aliens out there, I feel like that's a kind of an odd pick. See, that's what I mean. You can stumble on the wrong movie to pick. That movie disproves God as we conceive of him, if you were to take it at face value. So that guy fucked up.
Yeah, it's literal truth. It doesn't say God created aliens. Like, that's not in there.
God created man.
Shook.
Man.
Man only in his own
What
image.
if God is the alien? Like, little kids were probably shook, man.
See, these are questions that the church does not want you asking coming out of science. Like,
Because they don't want to talk about it. They just don't want to even
Did he
entertain
get moved to another church?
the event.
You're saying, did they give him the naughty priest thing where they just shuffle them to another town? Is that naughty priest is also the kindest possible way to talk about what these guys are doing. That would be funny if they like kicked him out of the church, but if you molested a kid, they just move you 3 towns over.
What's funny about this prompt was we kind of had short notice for picking these. Normally we have a little bit more time, and it was kind of tough for me to make a choice. And I feel like after I had already put my pick in, I didn't even really think about, I was like, I should have probably picked like Independence Day, like a movie that came out in the middle of summer. That's just a huge blockbuster. It doesn't necessarily have to be about summer. And I was like, I would have automatically won the episode if I would have chose. It's also Independence Day, middle of the fucking summer, like July 4th. It's in the name, but anyways.
You know what other
we haven't started talking.
I'm just surprised that Quinn didn't choose Independence Day or Wet Hot American Summer. Those are the.
I came somewhat close to picking Wet Hot American Summer. I didn't pick Independence Day because I don't have a relationship with that movie. But let's talk about the movies we did pick. Leonard, does it make more sense for you to reveal your pick first or for mine? Because they are 2 very different movies.
And I feel like not many people have picked either one of these movies.
I disagree about my own pick, but
okay.
So
well,
why don't
then let's
you
go with yours.
Okay, I picked the movie that birthed the summer blockbuster. I knew
that was going to be your argument, and also
it's not my argument; it's a fact. I mean, it's part of my overall argument, but it's a fact.
He
it's
did break the rules
upon.
for this episode, and I allowed it. But
I broke glass in case of emergency. Jeremy, for those who listen to this podcast, we will occasionally mention Leonard and I do not acknowledge films released before 1984. It's just not. We just don't. We can't go back that far. Too many movies have been made. You got to cut them off at some point. So there was an unofficial rule that we had. I am down. I'm also going to reveal this, Leonard. I am down 4-1 in this best of 9 season series to pick movies. I have had a harsh string of luck picking movies.
Don't let that sway you, Jeremy. Do not let that sway you.
Or do. But I've had a tough time of it, and so I was getting pretty desperate. And when we got this prompt, I was thinking about a number of things. I did think about Wet Hot American Summer. I thought about a lot of like popular summer blockbusters from my childhood. But then I kept coming back to, I think, and I hope to prove, the quintessential summer movie, the movie that kicked off summer blockbusters. And so I had to dip about a decade earlier. I chose the 1975. It's my second shark movie of this season, by the way. The 1975 Steven Spielberg classic, Jaws. And that's the pick. Everyone's seen Jaws. If you haven't seen Jaws, go watch Jaws. It's the perfect time. It's summer for it. Small local police chief of Amity Island encounters shark attacks on the beach during the 4th of July, Leonard, Independence Day. And he's got to solve it. It is a monster movie. It's a movie about family. It's you could call it a horror movie. You could classify it a lot of different ways.
Quinn has a fetish for things sinking in oceans. I'm just gonna say that.
I do.
It's Titanic.
I've gotten
Deep Blue Sea.
What was the other
Jaws.
movie?
I've gotten in deep water
what
before.
What was the other shark movie?
Deep Blue Sea. That was a totally different prompt. Obviously. But this movie can be classified, I think, a lot of different ways. But I think it is undeniably a summer movie. I think it is the summer movie. I think if you haven't seen it, I just as easily sum it up as 3 guys in a boat got to go kill a shark on the 4th, and it is it's close to a perfect movie too. We can get more into it, but Leonard, I don't know if you want to talk about your pick because it is quite different.
Okay, yes, and I believe you made your pick before mine. That happens like 90% of the time, and I was really struggling with this pick, and I kind of wanted to go with the movie Good Burger. because like it was just a movie I loved as a kid. It just like it's happiness. It's like I feel like my summer experience is like I never went to camp. So there was like my summer experience is like I got to make the best with what I have living with a single parent. I'm gonna just go out and do what I want and try to figure it out and have fun. And that's his plan. But then I was like, you chose Jaws and it's so fucking good. And I was like, all right, I gotta choose something that's capable of beating this. And I chose, which I don't think anybody would really choose, Do the Right Thing. And this is a very summer-centric movie as well. It's the other side of summer that you don't see. It's these people who necessarily can't go on vacation, can't go to camp. And, you know, they live in New York where the life in New York City is you live on your block. And you're seeing everybody's day or two on this block on a hot-ass summer day. And they say people get crazy when it gets hot. And, man, it's a heavy movie. It's a well-done movie. And I just feel like the whole vibe is summer vibes, and then after the last summer we just had, it feels real right. It feels real right. Yeah. So
yes,
definitely
extremely
ahead of its time. Or actually, I think it's just perpetually always
exactly
in its time.
When is this issue ever not in its time?
How did you feel when we gave you these choices?
Well, I had I've seen Jaws a bunch of times. It's definitely a summer feeling movie for me. And I feel like probably last time I saw it was last summer. So I felt like, oh yeah, great. This is like right on brand for the prompt. And I had never seen Do the Right Thing. And so I was excited to watch it for the first time.
Quinn, had you seen it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll cop to that too. we have the white co-host and our white guest on the podcast.
That's right.
Neither of us have seen Do the Right Thing. We should get that out right away. Leonard is laughing at us.
That's just the truth.
Oh, that's great.
No shockers there. Neither of us had seen it.
I had seen it when I was younger and passing, and, I never really paid attention to it. Obviously, I watched it as an adult, and then I know I recently watched it like a few months ago. Maybe I watched it last summer as well. But, it just, every time you watch it, it's just like, damn, man. There's a lot going on. I feel like, because my roommate watched it with me today. He had never seen it. And so
can we just ask, for the sake of this blind service, your roommate is white?
Yes.
Yes, so there's three white people now involved in this podcast who have not seen this.
He's been a guest on this podcast, Austin Kress.
We gotta get Chris Edens on this podcast to yell at us for not having seen.
That's
gonna
be your punishment.
Feels
Chris is
delinquent.
just gonna yell at you for an hour while you watch Malcolm X. 3 hours. No, the whole 3 hours of Malcolm X. Chris is just gonna yell at you.
That's on some level I deserve it. I appreciate you already taking your victory lap, Leonard. You haven't won shit yet.
I know. I'm honestly worried about you going on a run. But anyways, Jaws, fuck, man. Jaws was so goddamn good. The writing.
You've seen Jaws, though, Leonard, right? I mean, that's
but
not...
I watched it on TV as a kid. It was so slow moving as a kid that
the shark or the movie.
The movie as a child, it seems. Yeah, the shark and the movie.
The shark wouldn't move at all sometimes.
I feel like I remember being.
It occasionally goes so slow.
It felt like the first time I had watched it, because every time I remember watching it, being like, where the fuck is this shark at? When I was a kid, it was like I always like turned on the TV when I never owned a copy of it. It was always like I turn on the TV and it's just a bunch of people like, oh, I don't know. We got to open the beaches back up. And I'm like, what is happening? But watching it as an adult and really, dude, it's fucking spectacular. The shots are amazing. The writing's amazing. I was fucking terrified a couple times there. It was dope.
It's kind of like it's the perfect summer movie. I'm not going to make, and maybe this supports the argument, maybe it doesn't. You could argue it's almost in its own way an anti-summer movie, because that movie Jaws makes me, I have never not gone in the ocean, never not. Let me reverse that double negative. There's been no time since I've seen Jaws that I've been in the ocean and have not thought about Jaws. You know what I mean? I'm not actively afraid every time I go in the ocean, but it's always in the back of my mind. That poster
He's out there
with the girl swimming unbeknownst to her along the top of the water, and then just Jaws right up below her, ready to just cut her in half. It's terrifying, and it's affected like the collective American conscious, probably globally, conscious of just going in the water.
Honestly, I feel like Jeremy probably watched this movie a lot of times at Bible camp or whatever, because at the beginning you see the shy little girl being a nice young lady, and then as soon as she gets naked and wants to have sex, bow, dead. That's what happens when you have premarital sex.
That's what happens. Yeah, exactly.
And that
Don't be
kid
sinning in the ocean like that.
That kid on his floaty, and then when they're all on the beach later, you know he was sinning. They don't tell you how, but
Yeah,
he probably stole money from his mom's purse or something. There's a deleted scene.
He was diddling himself under the water. You couldn't see it. The cameras couldn't catch it, but we know what he's up
We
to.
knew what he wanted to do out there.
I mean, yeah, I feel like some of
Have you seen, by the way, have you seen, like, they have, speaking of, like, Jaws going in the water, like, how it freaks you out, you know, psychologically now, they have, I've seen, like outdoor movies where they have a big screen, like on a, you know, a body of water,
Yes.
and they have, like, inner tube floaties that you watch Jaws on at nighttime.
Yes. I think the Alamo Draft House or something used to do, and maybe others as well, used to do screenings of like you're in a I don't know if they're on a lake or what. I've never been to one, but you're on a large body of water in floaties, and they project the movie on the screen. Not for $1 million. In fact, that's Leonard's
wouldn't do
punishment. Leonard, you have to watch Jaws at night in the ocean on a floaty.
It's
When you lose.
terrifying.
What's always funny, it's always stuck with me, RIP to my uncle, but I remember as a kid, my mom and like my uncle talking about how he was terrified. I remember watching Jaws like with my family younger, but I wasn't paying attention. I was like 8 or something. And my mom being like, making fun of my uncle because he was afraid to open his closet. As like a 10-year-old, he thought Jaws was in his closet. Like that's how, like it didn't even make any logical sense, but he was that afraid of Jaws that he thought he was. I always thought it was so dumb that it's still stuck in my brain that my uncle thought Jaws was going to be in the closet and would kill him.
That's the you called it, Jeremy. That's the SNL land shark sketch. Have you ever seen those like old 1975 SNL land shark thing where they just the shark is at the door? I think your uncle. I don't know if you ever saw Jaws, but he definitely saw SNL. No, it's like Chevy Chase era. Like it's like early SNL where they would just be like a knock at the door and then they'd start playing the theme and they'd be like, "Who is it?" And they'd be like, "Telegram," and then they'd open the door and it'd just be the shark head and it would eat somebody. Nice. So
it's
I don't know that supports your uncle being afraid of the shark in his closet, but what would he do? Was he also terrified by movies about, you know, like was he terrified by Jason Voorhees, who is a land-based predator, or was it just sharks?
I remember he loved it. I remember like watching it.
He loved it?
He loved the movie It. Yeah, we watched that. It was crazy. But Jaws, there's something.
Your uncle's also very scared of two guys that seem particularly wild and crazy.
So coneheads. I like to think that your uncle was afraid of Jaws when he was checking his closet, but when you guys were at the beach together, he was afraid of the clown from It. He's just got it mixed.
My uncle didn't go to the beach. But yeah, watching it, man, first of all, just like how it was felt so real, and the mayor just being like, "Nah, man, we got to get this money. We got to open these beaches."
Yeah. Your movie has a lot more relevance to today, Leonard, but I will say coming through a pandemic in which a lot of people, certain sections of the country and just, you know, we're just head down. I don't care how many people are getting sick. You're not going to stop me from going out and breathing God's air or whatever the justification was. And like, we will have the beaches open seems to have a kind of larger connection to the past 12 months a little bit. I think we can tie it in a little bit, but not quite so.
Yeah, there's even that line where he goes like, "You can either hire me for 10 grand or you can be on welfare through the winter." It's like, wow.
Dude, okay, let's talk about that. First of all, this little boy just got eaten by a shark, right? And these motherfucking reporters and officials are all joking and laughing and shit and just being like, "Oh, $3,000, blah, blah, blah," and like talking about where they're going to put the ad. It's like, this little boy just lost his life. And they're all just
no one says shit when his mom comes up dressed in all black. Nobody says nothing.
And they're all just in this room, and then out of nowhere, he puts his fucking fingernails on the chalkboard. That
Quint.
fucking character, Quint, holy shit. It was like, okay, this man is a crazy man. That whole scene was wild. And then when you get to them being on the boat and them like the camaraderie and they're like learning about each other and they're comparing the scars, and then he tells that story and you're like, it all makes sense now. And then you're like, I love you, Quint. I feel so bad for you. Just have forever PTSD and you want to be murdered by a shark. It's obvious. Like, he's like, I should have died in the water. But he doesn't say that. But it's
I love the way he wraps up that story by saying, "We delivered the bomb."
Yeah, I mean it's such a it's obviously it feels like one piece. Jaws is a very focused movie. It's the giant killer shark the whole time. There's not a subplot about like, you know, getting everyone to vote or something. But what it is bisected pretty neatly of like the chaos going on around Amity, and then the second half of the movie, the final half of the movie is just them, three guys on a boat in the water, and I don't think that works as well. The whole movie, or you know,
it doesn't really work
if
very
the characters
well for
aren't
a summer
strong.
movie.
Oh, I think it does, Leonard, but it doesn't work very well for like if the characters aren't strong. And you've got three great characters: Quint, who we've talked about,
Brody,
of course,
the chief.
Brody, the chief of police, played by Robert Scheider, who's great, and Richard Dreyfuss, who plays. Oh no, I'm forgetting. That's okay. I'll find it.
Mr. What does he say? Mr.
Hooper. That's right, because Quint is always telling
always
Hooper.
shouting at him.
Yeah. And they're three, you know, Hooper is like the kind of nerdy shark scientist guy, and Brody is sort of the everyman character, and Quint is just like a wackadoo, who they justify with that fucked up story later. But the three of them, it's very entertaining. That, like, my favorite scene in the movie is that scene where they're comparing scars and sharing stories.
And one thing you forgot to mention
Really good
is
scene.
Brody apparently like drowned as a kid and is afraid of water and lives on an island. And what I loved about that comparing scar scenes is he's just over there taking it all in. He has no scars to show. He's like looking on his body for like a little scar or something.
That's a great scene where you can see he definitely has like some piddly scar with no cool story, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to talk about it."
Because he's just like a very like run of the mill, simple, low key man, and like I just thought it was interesting that he just like accepted that, watched them like have this moment,
Yeah.
and take it all in. It was cool.
He knew they needed it more too. They had
Yeah.
they had some serious tension going on. They needed to
needed
figure
that.
it out.
And then they all just start singing. It was great.
Well, I mean, you got to have a sea shanty in there. That's, you know, you got to have a sea shanty in your shark movie.
Quint is looking for any reason to start singing. Any reason. Terrified, flooring a boat, making fun of a wife, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's the swimming with bow-legged women.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that the line? It's
That
like
is.
some-
That is.
yeah.
It is. I got to remember that next time I'm cheersing somebody.
They have three very strong characters in the movie. Everybody else is kind of like off to the wayside. You don't really know much about anybody else. But in Do the Right Thing, there's everyone on the cast is just, it just feels so like raw and real because it gets pretty real. And, you know, in Do the Right Thing, we're focused on the story of Sal's famous pizzeria.
Pizzeria.
Pizzeria. Sal and his two sons, Vito and Pino. And I thought that was great.
Why would you do that to yourself?
And then you have Mookie. So, you know, you got three Italian Americans. And then you have Mookie, African American, who is the delivery boy who just walks orders on the block to places. And it's one summer day, hot as fuck. And things get to the boiling point where people are having issues with Sal's. And there's so many layers of stories that are happening in this movie. It's kind of hard to explain. But basically, it's about race and just like treating people with respect and human being. It was just basically a focal point to be like, this is what's happening in the black community. This is what we see every single day. And we're just going to, I just loved that it was just like a viewpoint of so many different aspects of black culture. and then also it's very like inclusive. Everybody's like represented in this movie, and there's the main plot is Mookie and other people are kind of fed up with Sal and the way that things are going with the pizzeria. They want Bugging Out has an issue with there being no black people on the Wall of Fame. It's all Italian American. Sal's, and he is saying, "This is my joint. I do what I want." You have Radio Raheem walking around. You have there's the issue with gentrification. There's the issue with police brutality, race relations. There's a lot. But mainly you're following Mookie, delivery boy, bad at his job, just takes his time, doesn't give a fuck, and you kind of can't be mad at him. He's employed by a sweet man who also is racist, and his son is super racist, and it all boils down to some tension. Shop gets burned down. Radio Raheem gets murdered, and there really is no resolution because there is none. It just ends. It's just over. And
yeah,
how did you guys feel about the Do the Right Thing?
I liked, and I don't know if we've mentioned this up top, and maybe you did, Leonard. So I just want to make sure, in case we haven't. Most people know this movie, obviously, but this is a Spike Lee joint. Spike Lee plays Mookie. I've seen other Spike Lee movies, but I've not. I don't remember, maybe he's cameoed in them, but it doesn't. Spike Lee's not in all of his movies. He's not like the Woody Allen type character who directs, writes, and then also stars. So this felt like
certainly not a lead. Yeah,
his first 2 movies, I think he starred in them.
Okay, Yeah, she's got to have it or whatever.
Yeah, she's
anyway,
got to have it. Yep.
So Spike Lee plays Mookie, who, as you say, Leonard, is sort of an aimless, directionless delivery boy. He's just trying to make his money. He's got a girlfriend and a baby that he doesn't see a lot, but it's just because he's kind of always hustling. But this movie's a who's who of notable New York actors. So Sal is played by Danny Aiello, who's kind of a character actor, but I feel like anyone who saw him would kind of recognize him, especially in the 80s and 90s Italian American actors. His son, the racist one, I don't remember now if it's Pino or Vito. I think it's Vito.
It's Vito, I believe.
Is played by John Turturro, who is a great actor, most well known for playing the butler obsessed with feet in the Adam Sandler movie Mr. Deeds.
I was really hoping you were going to say that one, and you did.
I was trying to pick, he's done so many. He's worked with the Coen brothers a bunch of times, but no, he's the feet butler. And
he's very sneaky.
Rosie Perez. This is Rosie Perez's first movie. She kills it in the opening title dance sequence, and then just before the movie even starts. But then she also plays Mookie's significant other. And then I'm definitely leaving people out. There's one specific person I'm leaving out intentionally, Leonard. Was Samuel L. Jackson in this movie?
I know we finally got to Samuel L. Jackson. And it doesn't matter, but yes,
doesn't matter. But yes, young Samuel L. Jackson,
a young Martin Lawrence is in this movie.
Yo, Martin Lawrence is in this movie. That's right. Yeah,
we didn't even Bugging Out is Giancarlo Esposito.
What?
Yeah,
yeah. Dude, I saw his name in the credits, and I really mostly know him from Breaking Bad. I've seen him in other things since. I know he's a character actor who's been in a dozen things. I saw his name in the credits, and I was like, "Oh, he's in this movie," and then I totally forgot about that. He's bugging out. I gotta go back and look.
And
at
then
that.
we have another Roger Smith sighting, which I was like, he's in all the black movies, and you're like, I've never heard of this dude. Who was in All About the Benjamins? He's Smiley.
Okay, yeah.
Also, Robin Harris, the great stand-up comedian, who I feel like I resonated the most with in this movie. There's Frankie Robinson. There's so many great actors and actresses in this movie. It's pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you said
it's a hugely talented, wide scope of a cast. It's very, and everyone in it, you're just like, oh, wow, well, this is why this movie is this movie. It's
And
huge.
I was thinking to myself, it was like, would these people have, is it that, I don't know if Spike had anything to do with the casting or knew any of these people personally through personal relationships, or if it was because this is a pretty big. This wasn't just a his own thing. Like, I think this was done by a studio, and he had enough clout by then that maybe they just were able to cast all these young and upcoming actors and actresses. But like, would these people have been these people if they were and Do the Right Thing, or like what's the correlation between the two? Like, is it that they were all in this, or he just did a good job at finding all these super talented people? I wonder.
Yeah, it's correlation or causation. I don't know. I mean, I think you can definitely argue that when you're in good shit, it helps your career because people see you and people kind of get to know you. I've not seen John Turturro be this mean. Like, that was like an interesting part, because I think of him not only as the butler, but like in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? He's playing kind of a bumbling, sort of a silly character who is ultimately harmless. Like, he plays a guy who drops a lot of N-words and is just like a mean son of a bitch in this movie. So that was an interesting shade to his repertoire.
Yeah,
he's also a character actor.
How that had to feel when he got that script, especially the whole like montage of like just hate speech and spewing stuff.
Oof, man.
And I was just like, fuck. That's such a cool ass fucking scene. The way he wrote this script, it almost kind of feels like a play maybe, but like just the cuts and just like the way he tells the story was obviously had to be like super unique and groundbreaking time, and still is to this day. But like that scene, I feel like would kind of be like, ugh, like, but the way it ends, like the way the scene going into it, and then Samuel L. just being like, yo, what the fuck are we doing here? And
cool out.
Not to like me having seen it once 3 hours ago, trying to explain what is at the core of Do the Right Thing, which, as you mentioned, is an incredibly complex movie. And I think that's why, in a weird way, it's good that we're talking about this with Jaws, which is a purely surface level pleasure. It doesn't make it wrong, but I mean, that movie is not talking about deeper meanings. The shark does not represent anything. The shark is the shark. But in this movie, I mean, you've got the character who stutters. I'm trying to remember his
Roger Smith.
Roger Smith is his name, or the actor?
The actor is Smiley.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, Roger
Smiley
Smith's character. Smiley. Sorry, yeah, Smiley. He starts the movie, or very early in the movie. You see him talking about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and he's got a picture of him that he's selling. I guess he's sort of mocking up with his marker and kind of selling. And that seems to be the two poles that the movie is bouncing between, and I don't think the movie picks a side. Maybe you disagree. I don't know, but it ends with a quote from both, which are kind of contrasting, and it feels like the movie is kind of communicating that's where Mookie and a lot of those characters live, somewhere in the middle of those two ideologies.
I don't know why I didn't lead with that. Yeah, it's for sure kind of like, I feel like maybe the overall theme is polarity, but like every time there was like anything was brought up and there was like a very like strong viewpoint, there was also someone else giving the other viewpoint or an argument, and sometimes they would get angry and sometimes they would accept it. But that's what I loved, that like in every aspect or like moment in the movie, there was someone else who was giving their perspective from the other side, and it was kind of dope.
And I love that moment at the end.
Yeah, it's done. It's done really well that the way he plays it, like as you're saying, in between those two ideologies, especially like the horror of the end of the movie. You see Radio Raheem lose his life at the hands of the police, and then the horror of Sal watching his business burn down, and they really get the cameras in there and they show all his idols, his Italian American idols, like burning, and his face, and like it really like picks every angle to really look at something. And it's
kind of wild too, because you really feel for Sal. Like, you're like, damn, like everything 25 years of his life that he built just burned down. And it also was kind of like, I felt like another meaning was like, all right, well, Mookie throwing the trash can and just be like, fuck it, I'm gonna burn this system down and we're gonna try to just cleanse ourselves of this. I don't know how Mookie doesn't get arrested. Maybe Sal doesn't.
Can we talk about that? Because that's a good... I'm curious a little bit, and I think it's probably maybe open for interpretation. How did you read that scene? Because I had not seen this movie, but it's such a kind of a pop cultural... It's a significant movie, and so I knew that it was about like the hottest day of the year in Brooklyn, and tension breaks out, and they burn this guy's pizzeria. That's like, I know that's a very surface level understanding, but that's what I knew about the movie. And I knew that just from like references in pop culture or whatever, that it was the Mookie character, Spike Lee, who throws the trash can. And so when I kind of had just heard about it, I thought that it was like he'd had enough. He was fed up. But watching it, and maybe I'm totally off base on this. I've only seen the movie once, and I am white. I almost read it as, so Radio Raheem by this point has been murdered by the police. He's been taken away. What is left are some
angry
very
mob.
angry mob looking at Sal and his two knucklehead sons right by the pizzeria, and shit's about to go off. In fact, I think Sal even says, "Do what you got to do," or something like that. He says something to that effect.
I know it's
So then Mookie comes across the street, he takes a garbage can, and he throws it through the window. In a weird way, I thought that was like a mercy to Sal. To like, I don't like Sal either, whatever, but I'm not trying to see this guy get killed, either for what it would mean for Sal or for what it would mean for the community. And that spurs on them burning down the place, burning down the Italian-American Wall of Fame that's in the pizzeria. But when I just heard about the movie and hadn't seen it, I thought it was like anger boiling over, which it is, but I think it's more than that. And I don't know how you guys read it.
No, it 100% is more than that. He literally is saving Sal's life. He's saving that entire family's life, but he's also saving the lives of the people on the block. They
who would have become killers.
Yeah, like the mayor said earlier in the movie. I mean, he was just, what I love about the mayor, he was like all about positivity, and people saw him in this negative light. And he's like, what have I ever done wrong to you? And he was the voice of reason, trying to be like, y'all are about to do something that you're going to regret for the rest of your lives. And Mookie, instead of just like walking away and just like letting it happen and not caring, was like, all right, I got to make a decision. I'm just going to throw this fucking trash can through this thing and let the mob go at this instead of Sal.
Yeah, and I think he's saving his business in the long run too. I mean, if Sal wants to, like, he's even saying, after they're talking, he's throwing the money at him. He's like, "You're gonna get the insurance money, anyways." And I feel like Sal genuinely appreciates being a part of the neighborhood, as he stated, like, to his idiot son when they're talking over dinner. And he's like, "I'm proud of these kids grew up eating my food. Like, I'm proud of that." I feel like Mookie's trying to give him a shot at getting it back.
Yeah, I think Spike Lee sometimes gets it, and this is also. Just restating for the record, I'm white, but I think Spike Lee sometimes gets a reputation unfairly of being like less nuanced than he is. Like, I think Spike Lee is a lot for his generation of filmmakers. Spike Lee was kind of like the only black voice making strictly black movies that had like a wider appeal. Not to say that he was the only black filmmaker working, obviously, but it's obvious in his work he's dealing with issues of race and stuff. And I think a lot of people, maybe it's just a lot of white people actually, who sort of just think of like, oh, these are movies about how white people are bad and black people are oppressed or whatever. And it's like, you got to look at it deeper than that. And I think this is, to a lot of people, his quintessential movie. But I mean, it's there's no easy answers in this movie.
And if you
they don't kill the shark at the end.
All you have to do is watch this movie and know that that's not, like, everyone in this movie is flawed, extremely flawed. No one's perfect. The people who I feel like you like the most and are the least flawed is Mookie's little sister.
Yep.
And Love Daddy. And maybe Mookie's girlfriend. Maybe her biggest flaw is like being in love with Mookie.
Right.
We didn't even talk about, there's just so much going on in this movie. The three dudes sitting on the side of the road.
So good.
Robin Harris.
They're so good.
It might be my favorite part of the movie. Robin Harris and Frankie Faison. Man,
yep.
Talk about ahead of its time with the fucking ice caps. He was like, the ice caps are gonna melt and flood the whole world.
That stuck out to me so much.
So crazy.
I love how he's like, when's that gonna happen?
Yeah, and then there was somebody who's like, you're fucking
so when's
dumb.
When's that gonna happen?
Yeah. And then there's like the skeptical, like cynical one is like, you don't even have money for a boat. Like, yeah, you might know about it, but you ain't gonna do shit about it. Like, I'm just like, damn, man, this is so fucking good. And then it's like, you're like, oh, I like this character, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, this character is racist. It's like,
well, that's the other thing is like, it's not strictly white black relations. I mean, there's time. They're not main characters, but there's time given to the like Latin community in the area, and there's also time for I think they're Korean shop owners, family, and you see a lot of the characters that we would otherwise have sympathy for. Raheem, like, you see him go in and just be very racist to the proprietors of the the bodega. I mean, he's trying to get the D batteries, and you know.
And finally, my white ass can understand that Kanye line.
Yes, I also. Oh man, this is so.
That's hilarious.
I also
Finally clicked that light bulb.
But it's also like you can't necessarily be mad at the characters because everyone there is just like so mean. They're, like he talks about the little soliloquy about love and hate, and it's like, damn man, like hate is out here winning, man. People are just like angry with each other for literally no reason, and that's another big part of the movie. Which
it is also attention is always paid, and it's off. You're constantly reminded, and I think Jeremy, you've only been to New York City once. I was with you. I was holding your hand the whole way.
Well, that was
we went in like July, and it was hot as balls. And it gets hot out here in LA, but the thing about LA is it's actually usually a nice dry heat. But New York heat, really the East Coast. I mean, but like it can get sticky hot. It can get suffocating. You feel like you're just breathing in hot air in a way that doesn't typically happen out here. And I think the movies pay special attention to be like all of these characters, you know, like Vito, the son may feel this way often and stuff, but this is all coming to a head today because it's also just fucking hot, and we're all at our worst when we're hot. And so if you just maybe have a short temper, it's going to be worse. If you're maybe a little bit racist when it's hot, maybe you're a lot racist. Like it makes all of your worst tendencies kind of come out.
Yeah. I feel like that is an interesting comparison between the two movies. Is this like the summer aspect, which kudos to you guys for thinking, but the summer aspect in both movies is like really driving so much of the plot. Like in Jaws, you know, it's so financially important to this island community, and it's coming up, and these attacks couldn't have happened at a worse time, and they're literally risking their life to make.
Because if you yell Barracuda, Jeremy, nobody does anything. But if you yell shark, we've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
If someone yelled Barracuda, I would get the fuck out of the water.
I would think they're singing.
I'd be so scared.
Right with him.
I think they're singing the song. Ooh, Barracuda.
They're singing Heart.
Okay, so we talked about both these movies. What was your feelings on these movies, Jeremy?
And just to say, you're not yet picking. We're going to go through a couple more, but just general feelings without betraying the result. Gotcha. If you've made it. And
what would you have? What were you thinking? Is like maybe what we would have chosen.
Yeah, if you had any picks, that is good. Yeah.
If
you were submitting a movie and we all were doing this podcast where we all had to watch 3 movies, God forbid. What?
Yeah. Well. Yeah, Leonard, you mentioned you didn't go to camp or anything. My summers were always like very camp, like summer camp heavy. And so, yeah, immediately it was like very hard for me to ignore the wet, hot American summer shaped elephant in the room. So I probably would have gone for that. Although it's like, you know, if I was adding this to the mix, like I don't think Wet Hot would hold a candle to these two movies because I do think they are so like influential and you know, nuanced and stylized in such unique ways. It's like, even, you know, this is Spielberg starting to, you know, dunk on the game with his directing, and, you know, the iconic shot of, you know, zooming into his face on the beach, and then Spike Lee, like, I did not realize he starred in his movies because I haven't seen them. But I mean, all the like, you know, like that scene, all the really racist tirade scene when they're just going in, and how like straight on to camera that is. The love-hate soliloquy is amazing. The intro, Rosie Perez dancing, is incredible. And I was thinking when I was watching it, I love when people dance in movies so much. And I especially love when it's so committed. Like Rosie Perez is so like stone-faced and just like dancing the shit out of Fight the Power. And I was thinking like, man, I haven't seen a movie in a long time, especially like nowadays, where there's a scene where someone is just like dancing the hell out of a song. And I missed that.
My thought process, Silver Linings Playbook's probably the last one that I can.
Oh yeah,
I don't think they're dancing to Fight the Power in Silver Linings Playbook, but they should have been.
sort of a different vibe.
What did they dance to at the end of Silver Linings Playbook? Doesn't matter.
I can't remember.
Paul Simon. I don't know.
Well, let's go into these talking points.
Yeah, so as we do every week, we're gonna, just to help better frame our argument, we're gonna break these down into 5 talking points. The 5th will be, Jeremy, where you make your final decision. But just to, we're not really trying to score points, but maybe it supports our arguments. We talk as we go through. The first category, as always, Leonard, is pop culture. I'm sorry, I threw that to you when I realized that was not a clear handoff at all. I just threw the ball at the stands. Leonard. Is pop culture.
Pop culture. Wow. Talk about 2 heavyweights. This is a heavyweight matchup right here. Are you white or are you black? This is why we did this podcast. Fuck Jaws, man. Literally created a genre of movies.
We can't talk about Jaws.
Summer block.
Can't talk about Jaws also, and pop culture is the place to bring this. We haven't mentioned the great John Williams. I mean,
oh yeah,
never has he done more by doing less. It's just too dun it. That's it. That's the whole fucking thing, and it is one of the most iconic scores ever. I mean, it's like, yeah,
completely slaps.
The fin rising out of the water, all of it, just visually. I mean, the poster. Which, I guess in fairness, I think the poster is maybe cribbed from the book jacket, but like this Jaws is, of course, was based on a book, but it's known for the movie. I mean, there's so much. We're gonna need a bigger boat. Smile, you son of a bitch. Like, I mean, I look forward to hearing your arguments for, and I acknowledge also that I am not but I feel like there is a pop culture imprint from Do the Right Thing. I think it's got an uphill battle to match Jaws. But what do you think, Leonard?
I mean, I think it's right up there with Jaws, personally. Just the fact that it started so many people's careers. You were introduced to so many like heavyweight actors. There's the Radio Raheem, just the Radio Raheem, the love-hate Fist. Oh, you didn't see it because it's in his like room, but Rod has a huge painting, like a 7-foot across of the Radio Raheem knuckles up. Fight the Power, the whole, just like Spike Lee as a person, it kind of like is his own genre of pop culture.
When you think Spike Lee, you think Do the Right Thing. I mean, you think about a lot of things, but I think you think Do the Right Thing.
You think about Jordans, you think about 90s and 80s hip-hop, you think about,
just that conversation, as a baseball fan, that conversation they have, it's a very short scene, but where they're talking about Clemens,
I knew you were going to bring it up.
Clemens versus Doc Gooden. I just love that stuff. Like, yeah, that's not like larger pop culture from the movie, but that was just a little moment that I really appreciated.
I think maybe in my mindset, it's not even pop culture. It's just like culturally, it was a heavyweight.
For sure.
Think about people in 1989 watching this movie. Like some white dude in New York watching this movie and was like, maybe.
Jeremy and I watching this movie are the equivalent of the Larry Bird guy who scuffs bugging out sneakers and then
scuffing on Jordans,
moving his bike up. And then the best part of that scene was when he's like, I was born in Brooklyn. And everyone's like,
oh, yeah, man. It was just like shedding
so
a lot of light on things that people didn't realize that was going on. So maybe more culturally than pop culturally, but that's
fair.
Man.
That's fair.
Do the Right Thing has been referenced in 250 million hip hop songs. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, there's so many like sketches and things you probably don't realize that is influenced.
No, I don't mean to take down its influence. I didn't mean, when I said it had an uphill battle, I didn't mean it couldn't get there. I guess I just mean the enormity of Jaws. But I think you're absolutely right. And also, like, I don't think this movie was the first to do it, but like when Bugging Out tells Mookie's like, stay black. Like, I just thought like that's become, I don't know, it's like, is that said today very often because of that movie, or did the movie just sort of like package that out?
Yeah, he just put culture into a medium for people to take in, and then more people were able to access it, and it became pop culture, which happens with all black media, basically. So,
pizza, pop culturally very significant. I think nothing like a New York slice. Can I just, like, some of the Sal's pizza look kind of bad. I feel like you could, the one where he was given, I think it was it was bugging out when he was telling him about the Wall of Fame. He gives him like a pizza. That cheese looked kind of gnarly. I don't think Sal's is giving you the best slice. I think he's
Yeah, it looked like it had no sauce on it too.
Yeah,
it's like you asked for extra cheese.
That's $2,
which I thought was crazy because there was no sauce.
Production was slipping on that part.
Looked like Play-Doh.
Okay, so I feel like neither one of us wants to give the other
we don't
on
have to
that,
declare
but
a winner of it.
yeah,
I
we don't have
think
to do-
for very different reasons, these are two very significant films in pop culture. But maybe, you know what? Maybe we can agree on this. Pop culture goes to Jaws, but overall culture goes to Do the Right Thing.
Sure.
Is that fair? We can take that.
Yeah. Second is, how well do these hold up? And I feel like both of these hold up pretty fucking well, man. Like,
Yeah.
just everything about Jaws, the directions, those shots, the writing still holds up. It just was good all around.
Yeah, I mean, it's like even the 70s styles and stuff, because it's like families on a small island. It's not like they were, we'll talk about we can talk about them both at the same time. But like Do the Right Thing, I think in a kind of a great way, is very dated late 80s, just from the colors and what everyone's wearing.
From the opening of the
fashion.
movie.
Yeah,
Just like...
I mean, people do not still dress. I mean, maybe,
they kind of do now.
80s Renaissance throwback, but like, it's very of its time. Whereas Jaws, I don't think, it was filmed in 1975, but not everyone has bell bottoms and shaggy hair in a way that you look at it now and you're like, ugh. It's pretty standard.
You got that nice Richard Dreyfuss Canadian tuxedo that he like essentially just wears to go digging in the belly of a shark.
I don't think there was any cultural reference point for what a shark scientist, I forget what his title was, but like a marine biologist, whatever he was. So they're like, yeah, he dresses like he's got long curly hair and he wears a Canadian tuxedo. That's how those people look.
In a red knit tie. I feel like with Do the Right Thing, that shit holds up. Like we said earlier, I don't know if that we were recording then, but that movie could have came out right now, last summer. It could have came out in any time. I
think a lot of people were talking about it last summer too, for good reason. I mean, with everything, the protests following George Floyd's murder. I mean, I think
Breonna Taylor.
It was, like we said, it's always been relevant, but it was specifically very relevant last summer.
Yeah, I feel like both of these, I don't think there's really anything you can go at for either one of these movies.
I guess I'm not trying to, because ultimately we'll see what bearing
go at it, man.
These have on the final decision. Well, no, I'm about to talk about my own movie, but the shark. I guess you could say the shark, but I will say this: it holds up. So that famously, the shark in Jaws never worked. They had an entire mechanical shark built that they could, in some way, operate underwater. So a lot of those scenes, the shark was supposed to be featured front and center. And then they built it kind of like a famous fuck up. They built it and tested it in clear water or, non-salt water, lake water, whatever it was. And then they put it in salt water and the machinery started fucking up. And it's like, that doesn't work for fish. There are saltwater fish and clear water fish. You can't just do it with a mechanical shark and then be surprised when it doesn't work. You guys fucked up. So
if you'd have just followed the laws of nature, that would have led you to the right place.
Real fish can't make that transition. So they famously had to make do. So a lot of those scenes where you just see the fin and you just hear the music, it wasn't by design. It was kind of out of necessity. They had to, and it works so much better.
It worked out perfectly.
It's like Steven Spielberg is really a great director when you give him $150 million to make a movie, but he might be one of the best directors of all time if you tie one hand behind his back, because then he has to get creative. Like it works so much better. And then in the moments when you do see the shark, I think about, obviously there's the famous scene where Roy Scheider is throwing chum into the water and the shark kind of pops up. But I think about that overhead shot when the man in the boat, remember when his son is in the water, he's trying to get him out of like the bay area and stuff, and there's that overhead shot of the shark underwater as he's about to kill that man, as he's about to eat that man, and then they cut back and you see him fall under. That like skeeves the shit out of me. Like I think about that a lot when I'm in the ocean, and then like it's time to go in. And so, but they have to use those moments sparingly because the shark was so often not ready. So I think in a strange way, it holds up because the shark at the time didn't hold up. And shark movies since, and there have been a lot of them, have solved for that issue, and they're not better. And weirdly, less shark is more in this case. And I just figured I don't know where else to mention that. How does it hold up? Seems like the right place.
Yeah, when the dead body floats out of the ship.
Yeah.
It scares me every time, and I know it's coming. Oh my God, it gets me every time.
Yeah, there were a couple times I'm like, oh shit, like it for sure when he was dumping that chum and that fucking shark came up out of the water. Like it was like so slow, but yet so jarring.
I also love that reaction shot then, because you see the shark, and then there's that great, and I'm gonna do it, but no, this is an audio medium as we've gone over, so no one else will see it. But there's that great shot where Roy Scheider's head like pops into frame. He just like, and he like finds the and it's like, yes, like it's a great like reaction shot.
One thing I forgot to say earlier, which I also loved, was when they're like, the boat's like super fucked up and it's like looking real grim. Like it's like that next morning, Quint puts on his army. You see, he puts on his army jacket or his army uniform, and I was like, yeah, he's ready to die.
Yeah,
like he's ready to die. Where's Notorious B.I.G.? He's ready to die. Number 3. If this was season 1, I would have dunked all over fucking Quinn.
You would have had it.
No Samuel L. Jackson. No Gary Oldman. But was Steve Buscemi in either one of these films?
He's not in Jaws.
And he's not in Do the Right Thing.
I'm kind of surprised he's not in Do the Right Thing, because like late 80s was when Steve, and he was a very popular character actor in New York at the time. I'm kind of surprised he didn't play a racist in this movie.
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised he didn't play the brownstone guy, which is John Savage, who we didn't even say either. But I feel like he has to be the Boston brownstone guy. I feel like
I got another comp for you. So Jeremy, if you're confused, this is we've
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, what is this third category?
So our first season of this show, we would give each other like bonus points, or if we needed to tip the scales in some way, if Samuel L. Jackson was in one of our movies, because Samuel L. Jackson is in every movie, especially in the late 80s, 90s, and today. He wasn't in any of the movies we picked, and then we had to make a category just to justify the category of best Samuel L. Jackson movie. That's a long time ago. We've since updated it, and now this season we are asking, was Steve Buscemi, another popular character actor who's in everything, in any of our movies? And Leonard, if I'm not mistaken, he's not been in any of our movies. It's the kiss of death, asking if this guy's in our movies.
Yes. Season 2 was Gary Oldman, and we didn't have Gary Oldman in any of our movies.
Nope. But now you have Samuel L. Jackson in a movie. Doesn't count for anything. But Steve Buscemi, I've got a different comp for you. Who would he be in Jaws? I don't know. He was probably like 20 when that movie came out. So you just maybe have him get eaten. Maybe he's the guy in the boat that gets eaten. You know, the guy in the dinghy.
I feel like he would be the other cop.
Oh, okay.
That's like the partner of the lead dude. Who's like, well, who else is gonna help? He's like, it's for now. It's just you know.
Yeah. Like the deputy or whatever he was. Yeah.
Yeah, the other deputy.
I like the idea of him. I want to give Steve Buscemi. It's a different character, but the guy's like, I'm not going to open this shark and have the little Kintner boy slide out for the whole press to see. I want Steve Buscemi to deliver that line, maybe.
Oh, can I just quickly say my two favorite lines in Jaws? First one is when they have hung up the shark that they think is Jaws, and all the guys are like coming around and looking at it, and you know, Richard Dreyfuss is like walking around like being all skeptical with a pencil, and one of the guys is like, "What kind of shark is it? What kind of shark is it?" And then Richard Dreyfuss goes, "It's a tiger shark," and then it cuts back to that guy, and he goes, "Wow!"
Dude, I laugh so hard.
That line's incredible. I also love what's the lead guy's character's name? I don't know why I can't remember.
Brody.
Yeah, Chief Brody.
Chief Brody's wife, when she's trying to calm him down and make him stop reading shark books and have a drink, she hands him his drink, and then she goes, "You want to get drunk and fool around?"
Yes.
I also just so love that scene. I don't know if it's like, but that scene where he's at the dinner table and he's all depressed and he's like this, and his little son, his like 4-year-old son, is just mimicking his expressions and like brings him out of his funk. That's such a great like storytelling through film. Like there's no lines, there's no whatever. It's just a really great.
That's a great Spielberg thing to do, his little
Loves
whimsy
that
with
family
kids,
moment.
and then you're like, oh man.
I would do the right thing. Sticking on the topic of Steve Buscemi, I want him to be Pino. That's who I think he could have been. Because I don't think I can buy him as a virulent racist, but I can buy him as like, my brother's a racist and he bullies me. That seems more Steve Buscemi's speed.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
I'm just in a
Yeah.
in
That
the
scene
closet
specifically is what seals it for me when he's like,
yeah.
And well, now let's go to the fourth category, and that's stats.
Stats. Well, Jaws, I'll just start off on it unless you wanted to go first.
No, you got it.
As I said, it invented the summer blockbuster. Get this, okay? These are $1975. Jaws was made for $9 million. Steven Spielberg, again, this movie made Steven Spielberg. He'd done, I think, maybe a TV movie. I don't know if this was his first feature or his second, but this was what put him on the map. So he made this movie for $9 million. Everyone thought it was going to be a flop. It was over budget. It was behind schedule. This movie, worldwide, and maybe this is factoring in re-releases, made $472 million. That's off $9 million budget. So this movie made, like, I can't even do the math of what multiply that budget how many times where you get to 472. I mean, that's a huge hit, which is obvious because we've all known about this movie that was made before any of us were born as a sacred text movie. I mean, it was, like I said, the original blockbuster. It kind of created the game of like big tentpole releases that everyone gets excited for and you go to see during the summer. Enough said. But do you want to do how much Do the Right Thing made, or should I find the Rotten Tomatoes too? Because it's going to be like 100. Like, I don't. Let me see.
I think it's 98%, but go ahead and.
I mean, is it even, if it's even more, it's in like the IMDb top 250 movies. It's got my computer's loading. It's got a 98%.
I'll do the Right Thing. It was a $6 million budget, and it made a $37.3 million. It made $37.3 million. That's a pretty good takeaway, I feel like, especially for what type of movie it was. It's 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, an 8 out of 10 on IMDb.
I think it was also just for, like, I think this movie also premiered at Cannes. Like, obviously, this Do the Right Thing was not a summer blockbuster. It was not. It was released, you mentioned before, Leonard, Spike Lee had like a studio backing. It was released through Universal Pictures, but this was an indie, and it was released at Cannes, and then it was released later that summer. I think it actually came out in theaters in the U.S. in July. But like these are obviously two very different movies, so we're not just, Jeremy, for your reference, we're not just matching total dollars versus total dollars here. They're two very different films, but both very successful in different ways.
Here's some stats that sometimes we talk about, and I'm going to talk about awards. And in 1990, this was not nominated as a Best Picture. It was nominated as Best Screenplay. Didn't win. Driving Miss Daisy won Best Picture in 1990, and the only actor to get a nomination was Danny Aiello. Danny Aiello, the white dude.
Danny Aiello is also first billed, which I thought was kind of interesting. I guess at the time,
he's probably the biggest actor.
He was the biggest actor.
I mean, he was fucking amazing in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not mad at him getting that nomination. He was great.
No, he's a much more complex character than I expected him to be coming into the movie. I think you totally hit it, Jeremy. That scene where he's having like it's like a down period at the pizzeria, and he's talking with Vito about like
Pizzeria.
why are you pizzeria, I'm sorry. He's talking with Vito. He's like, why are you angry all the time? Like, it's a very kind of interesting scene. You know, it's like he doesn't want it to be this way, I don't think. But at the same time, when Raheem comes into his shop and starts playing his radio, he's very quick with the slurs. Like, you know, I'm not saying he's good to say that he's complex, but he's like
he was just fed up through the day. Like, his sons were getting on his nerves, Mookie was getting on his nerves, the customers were getting on his nerves.
I think we can admit Mookie is not a good employee.
No. Yeah, and sure. I always thought that Sal wanted to fuck his younger sister, but then Sal was like, don't even fucking act like that's what that is.
I wasn't clear on that either.
We didn't really land on that.
It was like because obviously he's known this little girl since she was a little girl. He's seen her grow up. So,
and because of the scene before where he's talking about feeling entrenched in the neighborhood And it's, you know, and I believe him at the end of the movie where Mookie says to him, "You're going to get the insurance. You know how it works." And he goes, "It's not about the money." And I believe, maybe it's just he's a good actor, I believe him in that moment when he says that line. And I came away from that scene not entirely sure what it was, but I didn't think he was creeping on Mookie's sister. I thought he just enjoyed seeing her grow up and be like a nice young lady, which is a weird thing to say, but I don't think it was any more sinister than that.
But I think there are probably people who watched that and maybe thought it was just how Mookie was. So it's just like, from what viewpoint are you seeing this? Which is a lot in this movie. I feel like there's a lot we missed in Do the Right Thing because there's just so much. There's so much going on. We're at the 5th and final criteria.
Yeah, I think it's only fair, Leonard, that you let me go last. You know, sort of like when it's game point in a game of ping pong.
Okay, sure.
Like I get to serve every time until I know you did. Okay. I'm asking for it again. Leonard, do the right thing and let me go last.
Okay. Oh, man, I don't have any argument. I didn't have any predetermined argument for this movie. I feel like the movie speaks for itself. But, I mean, come on, man. It's a hot fucking summer day in New York City on this block. We're seeing the inner workings of this community, the inner workings of the feelings of African Americans in the country, on how they feel about so many things that people don't realize maybe that they have to deal with in the inner workings. And, you know, it's a summer day. Nobody has school. A lot of these people aren't working, and they're just out in the heat. And, you know, it kind of sucked living in the 90s. There was nothing to do. You know, they were just out there enjoying each other's friendship, living in New York, being racist.
What is going on?
I don't know. I don't know what argument to make for this as the best summer movie.
Thinking of a past life right now.
There was nothing
like
to do in the 90s. Everyone was racist and no one was in school.
I just feel like it felt real. It felt like a real New York summer day. It wasn't. There were funny moments. I've seen this movie many times, and I still like I basically cry every time Radio Raheem gets murdered. And I just think, I don't know, the reason why I think this is the best summer movie is because it fucking feels real. It's a real ass story, and not everybody has this quintessential great summer at the beach. And other people, they don't have time to maybe enjoy the summer, but these people are out here trying to make the best with what they have. And, you know, they're living their life, trying to survive. And, that's what I'm going to try to do this summer, because I'm going to be fucking lit on seltzers and eating ass. So I'm just going to try to survive this summer.
He pulled it out. You saved this final argument.
And that's it. That's
seltzers.
You somehow connected Do the Right Thing to eating ass. I didn't know how you get there.
I couldn't draw the line, but I do appreciate it.
I had no argument going into this, but it's okay.
You really wanted to go last, and that was what you had prepared.
No, I didn't want to go last. I was just busting your balls.
We have fun. Okay, so now it's time for my closing argument, which is, as you know, Leonard, I'm gonna clear out the space on this.
He's looking. I can see he's starting to read from his laptop.
He's foaming at the mouth.
Webster's Dictionary defines summer as the season between spring and autumn, comprising, in the northern hemisphere, usually the months of June, July, and August, or as reckoned astronomically, extending from the June solstice to the September equinox.
I just sign off at the Zoom.
And that's it. Mic drop. No. So when I picked Jaws, and I did pick Jaws first, and Leonard picked Do the Right Thing.
I just wanted to.
I felt like
Do the Right Thing.
I felt like someone was unexpectedly eating my ass, and I wasn't enjoying it, because I was like, how the hell am I going to argue this fucking shark movie against the movie which I hadn't seen, but I knew was a kind of a very important kind of landmark watershed film in like race relations in America as depicted in movies. I mean, I don't think that's too big to say, and I can't, and I won't argue with it. I mean, I think it's a great movie, and I think though I would argue it's not the better pick, it is 100% a summer movie. Any movie that has a scene where you're unscrewing the fire hydrant, which Leonard, how'd you not bring that up? So that the kids can play in it on the city streets? That's like one of, I've never done that. I've never seen that. But that is in my mind such a summer thing. It's like, oh.
I saw it. I saw it in the one weekend I spent in New York. I actually saw it with my own eyeballs. And
did you go jump in that water, Jeremy? You fucked up.
No, I should have.
How many chances are you going to get?
It was so hot. Well, I blew it, and I'll never see it again. It was like a unicorn.
That's, it's summer when fire hydrants are popping off. All right? You just,
But I did get to see you argue with some guy about Derek Jeter, which I thought was
amazing. We were walking through the city, and Jeremy, again, he'd never been to New York. He didn't know what the experience was, so he thought, it's not all just, I'm walking here moments. And yet, almost as I said that, some guy who I don't know, just comes up to me and sees I'm wearing a Yankees t-shirt, and he goes, what is he say? He's like, A-Rod and J-Lo, bet she wishes she was with Jeter. And I was like, okay, thank you, sir. And then we continued walking in opposite directions. That's my New York.
And I was like, are you kidding me?
No, but I mean, it's an unusual summer film, Leonard. I think if we took a blind poll of 100 people and asked them to list 5 or 10 or 20 summer movies, I think Jaws would be in like 50 of those people's lists. Maybe that's high, but I don't think Do the Right Thing would show up in as many. But I don't think you're wrong to pick it. I think you're absolutely right. It's like the hottest day of the year. It's summertime in Brooklyn, and all the things that we've talked about. It is very much on point. I can't argue with Jaws being any deeper than it is. I guess what I'm looking back at the prompt, as I often try to do, we're not picking what we might think the better movie is, or whatever it is. We're picking what more specifically picks the prompt. And Jaws doesn't just pick the prompt. I think Jaws defined the prompt. And that's why I broke our pre-1984 rule to pick it. It is the summer blockbuster to which every movie since is compared. And so it's about summer. It's summertime in Amity, and there's a shark, and everyone's at the beach, and it's the 4th of July and all this stuff. But it's also like, step back from the movie. That's what summer moviegoing is. And I watch Halloween, the John Carpenter movie Halloween, every Halloween, because it just makes me feel like Halloween. And I watch Jaws kind of every year too, I would say. And I don't, maybe not every single year, but when I watch it, it's the summertime, and it's like getting ready to go to the beach, and it's like getting in that mood. So I think Jaws works on both of those levels, where I would say that Do the Right Thing might only work on the one. And I think Do the Right Thing is also like, you probably, it makes sense if you watch that on a hot day. I think you could also watch that movie in December, whereas I think if you watch Jaws in December, I don't know that it hits the same as when it's like, oh, I'm going to the beach, I'm getting in the summer spirit. And I'll wrap it up there, because I'm not going to come at this movie. I would say Do the Right Thing is probably more important. But in summer, we see popcorn flicks, and we go to the movies, and we want the experience, and that's what Jaws is. And I think that's why Jaws is the better pick. But it's not up to me.
I'm going to give a quick counter argument.
Oh, shit.
I didn't come for Jaws because Jaws is fucking amazing, and it's a great summer movie. But I'm not going to take what Quinn just said at face value, because he said he watches Halloween every Halloween, but yet for the Halloween episode, he chose Hocus Pocus, which means he's a liar. And we're done. I'm sorry. And you can.
I didn't pick it because it was pre-1984. I didn't break the rule for that, but I broke it for this.
You're okay. All right.
So
all
I
right.
counter your counter.
All right.
With my own counter.
All right. So, Jeremy, before you let us know who you believe, which movie is the better summer movie, just give us your thought process, your feelings, and maybe what your parameters or criteria would be for the summer movie, and then you can give us your.
And try to crack an omelet, share some knowledge with us, maybe solve the race relations thing in Do the Right Thing while you're at it. Yeah, while just solve that, shed some light on it.
That's why we had you on here, and yeah, wow, this hot seat got even hotter. No, I genuinely love both of these movies very much. And I'm so happy that I did this podcast, and Leonard, that you nominated Do the Right Thing, because it was like a great excuse to finally get to it. And I was watching, I think in the middle of the movie, I was just like, God, I'm having such a great time watching this movie. And it like genuinely, when watching it this week, I was like, this is like, I have like feels in my heart watching this movie, like, good movies really deliver. and I seriously think I would give both of these movies a flat out 10. I think they're both that fantastic. And, you know, right when Do the Right Thing ended, I was like, oh man, I'm like for sure watching this movie again. I thought it was so, like, all the performances are like absolutely incredible. And, you know, the relevancy is just going to last forever. I mean,
sadly, probably.
Well, it's hopefully not. But it's just an incredible, like, timeless story, really. I mean, it's so good. And, you know, I have to, you already know where this is going.
Do we?
I think I have to go with
Yes! Thank God. Oh my God.
I have to do it because I do totally agree with Quinn. If I'm thinking best summer movie, I cannot deny it's kind of like the summer movie. Like I really can't think of one that waves that flag better than Jaws does.
My heart is beating like I just saw the fin come out of the water. My heart is beating.
I thought he said that because he was going to choose Do the Right Thing. I was like, oh, shit. Wait, is he about to choose Do the Right Thing? Oh, my God.
Look, I got to honor Quinn. He's desperate as hell. He broke the glass. In desperation is a stinky cologne, and you got to hand it to him.
Thank you, Jeremy. Your money is in the mail. Oh, my God.
Thank you. My Venmo is open, and whoa, look at that.
When we texted about it, Leonard and I both had trouble with these picks because this was one of the ones there's too many potentially right picks. And Jeremy, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you out and keep going, but once I got that solution, I was like, oh, thank God. But when we were texting about it, and I was like, I want to pick Jaws, but I feel like Jaws it's against the rule. It's what, we have an unofficial no pre-1984 rule. And then Leonard's like, I want to pick Do the Right Thing. And I was like, oh no. Like, it's like, I don't know how I'm going to beat. And then I was like, now I have to pick Jaws. Cause I think I'm not going to be able to go pound for pound with like significance, all the things that movie is trying to say. So I have to go like, not dumb. Jaws is smart, but it's not about anything. Yeah, I got to go like hard on the entertainment popcorn film movie, and that's what locked it in. So we both kind of weirdly like got locked into these picks, and I was like, it's do or die for me. I gotta hit every shot I make from here on out to try to fight back into this thing. And so
I do think it was that close. I felt it
was close. I did not feel confident.
Every shot.
I honestly,
I thought I was right, but I didn't feel confident.
Yeah, I didn't feel confident in mine. I thought once I watched Jaws, I was like, before I watched the movies, I was like, oh, I think Do the Right Thing is gonna win this. And then I watched Jaws, and I was like, damn, this movie is good as fuck.
Yeah, it is so good,
but it's okay.
That's
Quinn needed to win. Quinn needed to win.
I mean, so. People who listen would know, but if you're joining us for the first time, what a weird episode. But we do this best of 9. I got the first win of the season, feeling real good. Second episode, I drop. Third episode, I drop. Fourth episode, I drop. I'm thinking I have good picks on all of these. I did feel confident. Fifth episode, I drop. So now it's 4-1, first to 5 wins, and I'm like, this is going to be. Not that I don't think anyone really listens for the season-long series, but it keeps us going, and it definitely adds to the fire that Leonard and I have when arguing about these movies. So if only for that. But I was like, if I lose in episode 6, we got like 3 more of these to do. Like, what the hell am I gonna?
Yeah,
you could have lost.
You could have lost the whole season, which we. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. You were just like LeBron James poked in the eyeball right there. You somehow hit that 3-pointer.
I was seeing 3 movies, and I picked the one in the middle.
Oh man. Well, you know what? I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
If Do the Right Thing's gonna lose, at least it loses to a classic.
Yeah, exactly.
And those movies are so different. It's not like Jaws did anything that Do the Right Thing was trying to do.
I think I would have been mad if it lost to like Wet Hot American Summer, though. I would have been mad.
Yeah, exactly. Quinn, if you would have picked Wet Hot American Summer, it would have been Do the Right Thing all the way.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking about Do the Wet Hot American Summer. And it's like once Leonard said Do the Right Thing, I'm like, no. I'm gonna throw out a fucking David Wayne comedy to try to beat this movie. Fuck out of here. I feel wonderful. I feel like I don't feel like I just saw the fin out of the water. I feel like I just blew that fucking shark in the water into a million pieces. And that shark this week was Leonard.
Smiley son of a bitch.
Well, hey, so Jeremy, what's up with where can the people find you? What's up with you? Where?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on the gram. At Jeremy P. Olson is the handle. That's how I'm found on the internet. And that's it, man.
I'd also, I'll throw out so you are a guest on this podcast sometimes. Like you were a guest on this podcast. If you like Jeremy guesting on podcasts, check out Jeremy's appearances on the Good Christian Fun podcast if you want to hear him talk more about his evangelical life, because
well, that's
it's
right.
a good time.
That's right. I started with that, so yeah, it's a great podcast. Give it a listen.
But yeah, just a very funny guy. Thank you so much for doing this podcast. Thank you doubly for picking my movie. We'll have to,
of course.
Yeah, this was a blast. It's
a great way to kick off the summer for me.
It was a heavy episode. We had two heavyweights and some heavy topics, but it was.
I think we
truly so thankful it got it got me to watch Do the Right Thing. Like, oh my God, it's way too late to this fantastic.
This
movie.
podcast is exists in part for Leonard to like, because we were talking about like white movies, for lack of, for better or for worse, are like everybody's movies, because that's just how America works. It's like, this is what's popular and this is what's put in front of you. But there's a lot of significant black movies that I just straight up didn't see. Like, they weren't on the rotation at the sleepover parties. I'm not making excuses. I'm a 30-year-old man, but it just was not involved. So this podcast, part of this podcast, is a public service that Leonard is performing to me, which is where he gives me movies that I should have seen years ago. And then I'm like, well, how does it rank against Avengers or something?
Well, now I'm piggybacking off that. So thank you for your service, Leonard. You're welcome. And honestly, this was one of those times where I was very happy that Quinn chose this movie, and I didn't hate him for the movie he chose, because this movie was amazing.
Yeah, I take it back. It's not usually Avengers. It's like Leonard will pick some significant, like Wayans Brothers movie or something like that, and I'll be like, "Here's Homeward Bound." It's like anyway. The past is prologue. I'm only looking forward. I only need 2 more wins to draw even, and then 3 to drive the stake through your heart, Leonard. We will see everybody next week, but until then, have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. If you go out to the beach, make sure you look for sharks or barracuda. And until that time, we'll see you at the beach, Leonard.
Yeah, put some extra cheese on that motherfucker.